Nine-headed insect. The demon's ambition. The 50th and 51st trials of the 81 calamities. Protagonist, nine-headed insect. Weapon, crescent-shaped spade, 9 heads. Characteristics, highly skilled, evenly matched with Sun Wukong. Cunning and uses traps, unlike other demons. Its water home exploits Sun Wukong's weakness. Weaknesses, greedy, arrogant, and fails to learn from mistakes. Near the distant Jasai Kingdom, there is a chaotic stone mountain with a bottomless pool called the Azure Wave Pool. The Dragon King and his family live at the bottom of the pool, including his son-in-law, the nine-headed insect. Despite his name, the nine-headed insect is not an actual insect but a large bird with 9 heads. With sharp teeth able to shred anything and wings so vast they block the sun, he appears especially imposing in human form, with 9 heads clustered on his neck and clad in silver armor. Life was peaceful until one day, a beam of golden light from the Jasai Kingdom's pagoda disturbed the nine-headed insect's sleep. He, grumpy from being awakened, went outside and saw the light from the pagoda. The nine-headed insect thought, "Great, a golden light must mean treasure inside the pagoda." He flew to the pagoda, saw the Buddhist treasure, and was thrilled, thinking it would be better as a lamp in the Dragon Palace. He devised a plan and stole the treasure. Soon after, Xuanzang and his disciples arrived at Jasai Kingdom. They saw monks with iron chains around their legs walking near the city walls. As Xuanzang was about to inquire, Zubaji ran ahead. "Zubaji, hello, do monks in Jasai Kingdom wear ankle chains as a trend?" The monks shook their heads sadly. "Zubaji, oh, you're playing a 3-legged race, right?" The monks shook their heads again. Zubaji was guessing excitedly until Sun Wukong slapped him, causing him to yelp. As Zubaji was about to retaliate, he saw Xuanzang's stern gaze and quickly hid behind the white dragon horse. Xuanzang, feeling deeply apologetic, bowed several times to the monks and said, "My disciple is too foolish, please forgive us." The monks quickly responded, "It's all right." Seeing the monk's ankles chafed by the iron chains, Xuanzang asked softly, "Why are you wearing these heavy shackles?" An elderly monk stepped forward and explained, "This is the emperor's punishment for us." Xuanzang inquired, "Punishment? What did you do wrong?" The monk looked towards the distant mountains and began his story. "A few months ago, we had a sacred temple called the Golden Light Temple in Jasai Kingdom, housing a miraculous pagoda. This pagoda radiated golden light from morning till night, bright as a street lamp. It was surrounded by pink clouds that never dispersed, regardless of the weather. Most remarkably, this pagoda was highly effective in granting people's wishes." The monk continued, "People came from far and wide to visit the Golden Light Temple, including emperors from neighboring countries, bringing many gifts. Our country became very prosperous because of this." Sun Wukong, curious, flew up to the clouds, shaded his eyes and looked around. "I see only a pagoda, there's no golden light or clouds." The elderly monk sighed and said, "This is why we are being punished. A few months ago, blood rain suddenly fell from the sky and tainted the pagoda. Since then, the pagoda no longer emits light and the clouds have dissipated." The monk continued, "When the emperor learned of this, he was furious and imprisoned all the monks in chains, declaring that unless the culprit was found, we would all be executed." Xuanzang, wiping away his tears, lamented, "Blood rain falling from the sky is unforeseeable. The emperor's punishment is truly unjust. But how can we restore the pagoda's light? What can we do? What can anyone do? It's truly despairing." Amid Xuanzang's rambling, Sun Wukong kept his eyes fixed on the pagoda. "How strange. Let me take a closer look." He squinted and emitted golden light, discovering a faint demonic aura at the top of the pagoda. Sun Wukong reported his findings to Xuanzang. Xuanzang nodded and said, "Let's head to the Golden Light Temple and investigate, and also clean up the pagoda." This decision led to many troubles for the 4 travelers, making the 50th trial on the journey to the west, clearing the pagoda in Jasai City. The unfortunate Bendobasa and Babasa. News of Xuanzang's arrival in the kingdom of Jasai quickly reached the nine-headed insect's ears. The nine-headed insect grew anxious. Just recently, Sun Wukong had caused chaos at his brother, the Bull Demon King's place. Now it seemed the trouble was coming for him. The nine-headed insect scratched his sixth head in frustration, muttering, "What should I do?" He continued to himself, "Let's see what actions Tang Seng and his party take." The nine-headed insect snapped his fingers, summoning two fish demons from outside the dragon palace, a catfish demon named Bendobasa and a black fish demon named Vabasa. The nine-headed insect sat up from his shell bed and said, "You two keep watch in the tower. Report immediately if Sun Wukong and his group make any moves." So, Bendobasa and Babasa hid under the tiles at the top of the pagoda, waiting for Tang Seng and his party. Unfortunately, Bendobasa fell asleep and dreamt of eating delicious food. Suddenly, his catfish whiskers were pulled. Startled awake by the pain, Bendobasa exclaimed, "You nasty black fish, who told you to pull my whiskers?" Babasa then slapped him on the head and said, "Sun Wukong is coming. If you keep sleeping, the boss will take care of you." Bendobasa, feeling aggrieved, rubbed his eyes and resumed watching Tang Seng and his party. At that moment, Tang Seng wasn't investigating the missing Buddhist treasure, but was engaging in mundane tasks. After paying respects to the Buddha, reciting sutras, having a meal, and using the restroom, he began cleaning the pagoda. Bendobasa and Babasa were yawning continuously, with Babasa's eyelids growing heavy. At a crucial moment, Babasa pulled out a plate of roast duck, a plate of pighead meat, and a jug of fine wine from his pocket. The two demons, now energized by the food and drink, were soon alert. Meanwhile, Tang Seng continued sweeping the pagoda, layer by layer. Pigsy and Sandy had already fallen asleep, snoring loudly. Only Sun Wukong, concerned about Tang Seng's fatigue, was helping him with the sweeping. When they reached the 10th layer, Tang Seng, exhausted, collapsed onto the steps. Gasping, Tang Seng said, I can't continue." Sun Wukong, deeply concerned, replied, "Master, please rest. I'll take care of the last 2 layers." After Tang Seng left, Sun Wukong pulled out a hair and blew on it, creating a dozen or so monkey helpers. The little monkeys, playing and fighting, cleaned the 12th layer. As they were about to climb to the 13th layer, they heard strange noises from above. It was Bendobasa and Babasa's voices, a little bee flying through the flowers, left and right, rock, paper, scissors. Sun Wukong peeked up, and saw that the catfish and blackfish demons were drinking and playing dice. "Just as I thought, there are indeed demons in this tower," Sun Wukong said, as he brandished his Jingu Bang, knocking them to the ground. With a swift swing, the staff made a loud crack, and smashed a hole in the stone slab in front of Bendobasa's nose. Sun Wukong demanded, "If you want to live, confess quickly. Are you responsible for this tower's troubles?" Terrified, Bendobasa and Babasa begged for mercy, and immediately revealed the 9-headed insect. Sun Wukong then learned that the blood rain was a trick used by the 9-headed insect during the theft of the Buddhist treasure. Sun Wukong informed Tang Seng of everything, and Tang Seng, delighted, kept turning his prayer beads, exclaiming, "Amitabha, Amitabha, if we inform the emperor, the monks at the Golden Light Temple will be saved." The next day, Tang Seng visited the emperor and revealed the plot of the 9-headed insect to steal the Buddhist treasure with the blood rain. The emperor immediately bowed in gratitude to Tang Seng, saying, "However, I will need your disciples' help to retrieve the treasure. Thank you very much." Sun Wukong and Zhu Baji, holding the transformed azure wave pool spirits, Bendobasa and Babasa, arrived at the edge of the azure wave pool at the chaotic stone mountain. Sun Wukong said to Bendobasa and Babasa, "Go and tell the 9-headed insect to surrender and return the treasure, or I will use my Jingu Bang to collapse this chaotic stone mountain and fill in his azure wave pool." The azure wave pool spirits hurried back to report. The 9-headed insect, enraged, roared with all 9 heads, "If they want to steal my treasure, I will definitely go out and defeat him thoroughly." The 9-headed insect charged out of the azure wave pool with his crescent-shaped spade, and as soon as he emerged from the water, the Jingu Bang was hurled towards him. The 9-headed insect raised his spade and firmly blocked the attack. Tool person Zubaji. The shockwaves from the clash between 9-headed insect and Sun Wukong's weapons knocked loose debris from the rocks on chaotic stone mountain, causing a thunderous rumble that scared the little monsters into jumping into the water to escape. On Azure Wave Pool, Sun Wukong and nine-headed insect exchanged blows. Sun Wukong's Ruyi Jin Gu Bang was incredibly powerful, making nine-headed insect's hands go numb, while nine-headed insect's crescent-shaped blade was so sharp that Sun Wukong had to keep retreating. Zhu Baji, sitting on the mountaintop watching the fight, suddenly felt hungry. Zhu Baji said, "HMPH, I might as well help Monkey King. After the fight, I can go have a nice meal with the Emperor." He drew out his rake, stirred up a gust of wind, and charged towards nine-headed insect. "Watch me catch you off guard," Zhu Baji said, sneaking up behind nine-headed insect and aiming his rake at the back of nine-headed insect's head. Little did he know, with 9 heads and 18 eyes, nine-headed insect could see everything clearly from all directions. Zhu Baji's move appeared in slow motion to him. Nine-headed insect rolled over, his silver armor shining brilliantly. The light suddenly transformed into countless feathers, and a massive nine-headed bird appeared before Zhu Baji. Sun Wukong scoffed, "So it's just a nine-headed insect. Take this." With that, his mountain-sized Jin Gu Bang swung towards nine-headed insect's head. Nine-headed insect's wings fluttered like a gust of wind, making a high-speed 90-degree turn to dodge the stick and charged at Zhu Baji. Zhu Baji was stunned by the sight, and as he lifted his rake to strike, nine-headed insect's shadow had already covered him. Unfazed, Zhu Baji mounted a cloud and aimed his rake at nine-headed insect's most vulnerable spot, the stomach. Suddenly, a head of the size of a small car extended from nine-headed insect's waist, clamped onto Zhu Baji's pig bristles, and dragged him into the water. Zhu Baji's been captured, what to do? Sun Wukong, frustrated, scratched his head. His poor swimming skills made it hard to fight nine-headed insect in the water. Suddenly he noticed a small crab in the rocks by the pool, bubbling away, and exclaimed, "I have an idea." With a puff of white smoke, Sun Wukong transformed into a small crab and scuttled towards the Dragon Palace. Inside the Dragon Palace, nine-headed insect and the Dragon Kings were celebrating their victory, creating a ruckus. No little demon noticed Sun Wukong, allowing him to easily locate Zhu Baji. Zhu Baji was tied to a pillar with seaweed, his belly constricted painfully, and he kept moaning, "Ouch, ouch. It hurts so much." "You fool?" Sun Wukong laughed heartily, using his pincers to quickly cut through the seaweed and free Zhu Baji. Zhu Baji, relieved, picked up his rake and prepared to flee. Sun Wukong stopped him, saying, "Don't leave yet, I have a brilliant plan." Zhu Baji, feeling nervous, stepped outside the banquet hall. He spat into his hands twice, tightly gripped his rake, took a deep breath and shouted, "Today, Pigsy is going to cause a ruckus in the Dragon Palace." He charged into the banquet hall with his rake raised, smashing everything in sight. Coral sculptures, pearl goblets, shell screens and clamshell loungers were all reduced to fragments under his rake. The little demons and servants scrambled in fear, fleeing in all directions. Meanwhile, nine-headed insect, drunk and snoring deeply, was in the depths of the Dragon Palace. Hearing the commotion, the Dragon King stormed in, seeing his treasures shattered everywhere. His dragon whiskers bristled with fury. He glared at Zhu Baji and said, "Pighead, don't be so arrogant." "Bring it on," roared the Dragon King, and from all directions countless shrimp soldiers and crab generals rushed out, brandishing knives and axes at Zhu Baji. Zhu Baji wiggled his butt and taunted, "Come and catch me, come and catch me." Then he leapt and escaped. Trying to run? Shrimp soldiers and crab generals chase him down. The Dragon King roared, charging towards the surface. Just as he emerged, a golden shadow swung a blow at his head. With a thud, the Dragon King's eyes filled with stars as the Ruyi Jingu Bang struck him dead. When nine-headed insect sobered up and learned that his father-in-law had been killed by Sun Wukong's blow, he gnashed his teeth in anger and crushed the pearl plate in his hand. Nine-headed insect vowed, "Sun Wukong, I will surely take your life to avenge my dead father-in-law." The final battle. "Why hasn't he come out yet?" Zhu Baji asked, stretching his head into the water to sneak a peek. Seeing no movement in the underwater Dragon Palace, he turned to Sun Wukong and asked, "Monkey King, do you think nine-headed insect might be too scared to show up?" Sun Wukong, gazing at the setting sun, shook his head and grinned with a mischievous look. Baji, my good junior brother, why don't you give it another try and lure nine-headed insect out? I'm not going, Zubaji plopped down on the ground. I've already been once. This time it's your turn. Are you going or not? Sun Wukong's voice suddenly turned stern. Zubaji grumbled as he stood up. When master asks, you'd better say it was all my credit for catching the monster. Zubaji, with a sulky expression, was about to jump into the water when a huge black cloud floated across the sky. He looked up and exclaimed, "Ah, it's Erlang Shen. Monkey King, get him to come and help us catch the monster so I can get some sleep." Zubaji glanced at Sun Wukong and asked, "Monkey King, why is your face red?" It turned out that when Sun Wukong once caused chaos in heaven, none of the gods could match him except Erlang Shen, who managed to subdue him. Now asking for help, the usually proud Sun Wukong felt a bit embarrassed. Thus Zubaji went alone to invite Erlang Shen, who agreed readily. However, since Erlang Shen was also not good with water, it ended up being Zubaji, who had to lure nine-headed insect out of the dragon palace. Zubaji's plan to slack off failed. Zubaji looked at Sun Wukong pitifully. "Monkey King, it's already dark." Sun Wukong replied, "Don't worry, I have my fire eyes and golden pupils. I can see clearly." Zubaji said, "Monkey King, we've been at this all day." Sun Wukong reassured him, "After this battle we'll go home." Zubaji added, "Monkey King, I haven't eaten all day." Seeing Zubaji's woeful appearance, Erlang Shen's heart softened a bit. He stopped Zubaji and said, "I have some good food here. How about we leave after breakfast tomorrow morning?" Great. Zubaji cheered with delight. The next morning, nine-headed insect, who had just finished the funeral for the old Dragon King, was still groggy when a loud noise startled him out of bed. It turned out that Zubaji was causing a ruckus again. Nine-headed insect grabbed his crescent-shaped spade and rushed toward the noise. By the time he arrived, Zubaji was smashing and destroying things in the dragon palace, even killing the dragon offspring. "Rawr!" Nine-headed insect roared furiously, "You Zubaji, today I'll make sure you don't leave here alive." The sharp crescent-shaped spade glinted coldly, creating bubbles in the water. With a swish, Zubaji's bottom was cut open. "Ouch, it hurt so much." Zubaji flailed his back legs and with a whoosh, leapt out of the water. Nine-headed insect followed closely behind. Suddenly, there was an explosion on the water surface and a massive nine-headed bird emerged. Erlang Shen and Sun Wukong, who were waiting to fight, immediately took out their weapons and attacked. "Calling for help, huh?" Nine-headed insect spread his wings, expanding to a size that seemed as vast as the sky. His dark shadow covered the entire chaotic stone mountain. "I'm going to eat you all." Nine-headed insect dived towards Sun Wukong and Erlang Shen, extending a huge mouth from his waist. It was the same trick that had previously allowed him to capture Zubaji. Erlang Shen showed no fear. He blew a loud whistle, and the celestial dog charged forward, swinging its head and sending nine-headed insect's head tumbling to the top of chaotic stone mountain. Mortally wounded, nine-headed insect fled in panic. Sun Wukong transformed into nine-headed insect and entered the dragon palace, tricking the dragon mother into handing over the Buddhist treasures. She gave him 2 boxes containing the relics from the Buddhist tower, and the 9-leaf spirit grass stolen by the dragon maiden from the Bodhisattva. Sun Wukong used the spirit grass to clean the Buddhist tower and return the relics to the tower's heart. Instantly, the tower emitted a dazzling golden light, and colorful clouds began to gather. Sun Wukong then sentenced the dragon mother, who had committed a crime, to coil around the tower's pillar for generations, guarding the tower. Thus, the kingdom of Jasai restored its former peace. Since Sun Wukong recovered the Buddhist treasures and saved many monks, the 51st trial on the journey to the west was named Recovering the Treasures and Saving the Monks.